please have to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get my latest videos when they come out. Today, I want to talk about how inflation is affecting the Philippines compared to the West. This blog is to give you a perspective to think about. As you know, most expats won't be affected by inflation in the Philippines like Filipino people. Let's begin. A major global economic problem that affects many nations, including the Philippines and several Western countries, is inflation. The Philippines has seen much higher rates of inflation than many Western nations, primarily due to domestic factors like the country's reliance on imported goods and changes in the price of commodities globally. Consumer purchasing power, economic growth, and socioeconomic challenges, particularly for lower income households, all reflect this disparity. Inflation trends are declining in Western economies, but the Philippines continues to face challenges and volatility that may last for some time. Number one, an overview of inflation Philippines. The Philippines' inflation rate increased noticeably in the last few years, reaching a high of 8% in November 2022, mostly as a result of sharp increases in the cost of food and energy. In July 2024, the rate of inflation was 4.4%, a significant rise from the previous month and a sign of a sustained upward trend in prices. Because of its reliance on imports for essential commodities like energy and rice, the Philippine economy is still susceptible to external shocks. As a result, changes in global prices directly affect inflation in the country. Number two, the Philippines' inflationary factors. Several factors contribute to the inflationary pressures in the Philippines. A. Dependency on imports. Due to its heavy reliance on imported commodities, especially energy and rice, the nation is vulnerable to price increases and disruptions in the global supply chain. For example, local transportation and production costs have been greatly impacted by the recent global energy price spike. B. Local demand and supply chain restrictions. Rise in domestic demand makes inflationary pressures worse when combined with supply chain restrictions. Household consumption in the Philippines is still high, but local production, particularly in agriculture, is having difficulty keeping up. Problems like bad weather and inefficient production lead to shortages in food supply, which raises prices even further. C. Policies. Several consumer taxes, such as the excise tax or petroleum items, have been implemented, which has put further upward pressure on pricing. Lower income households are disproportionately impacted by these taxes because they devote a higher share of their income to necessities. Number three, impact on purchasing power in the Philippines. In the Philippines, rising inflation severely reduces purchasing power, particularly for lower class families. The poorest 30% of households, according to government statistics, spend almost 6% of their income on food, making them particularly susceptible to price increases. These households' overall level of life declines as a result of having to make reductions in other expenses due to the rising cost of necessities. Furthermore, by adjusting monetary policies such as by raising interest rates, the Philippine Central Bank, Banco Central Pilipinas, or BSP, has attempted to reduce inflation. The burden on consumers has not completely decreased. Nevertheless, as inflation rates have continued to rise over the BSP's goal range of 2 to 4%. Number four, trends of inflation in Western economies. In comparison to the Philippines, inflation rates have largely slowed down in Western countries. For example, the United States inflation rate peaked in June 2022 at 9.1%, but as of late 2023, rates had decreased. Because central banks have increased interest rates to combat inflationary pressures and improve long term price stability, many Western economies are witnessing a reduction in inflation rates as a result of tighter monetary policies. Factors according to current data about the decline in inflation in Western economies include: A. More stable supply chains. Historically, Western nations have profited from more diverse and stable supply chains, which have helped them withstand shocks better than economies that rely heavily on imports. B. Economic adjustments. In order to meet consumer demand without putting undue pressure on inflation, efforts have been focused on enhancing productivity and supply chain efficiencies as Western economies recover from the pandemic. Number five, comparative effect on the ability to purchase. The Philippines and Western countries are significantly different in how inflation affects purchasing power. Inflation in the Philippines directly affects households with lower incomes, increasing the amount of money they spend on necessities, while Western consumers' purchasing power has also been impacted by inflation. Many of them have larger financial buffers and more means to deal with fluctuation costs. In contrast to many Filipino workers who frequently live paycheck to paycheck, American workers have issues with wage growth not keeping up with inflation. In this regard, the principles of savings and varied income sources provide greater resilience. Furthermore, unlike consumers in the Philippines, Westerners usually have access to a variety of social safety nets and services that can aid them during inflationary times. Number six, economic growth projections. The trajectory of economic growth is also impacted by inflation. Prolonged inflation is expected to hinder the Philippine economy's ability to grow rapidly. According to economics projections, which call for an annual inflation rate of 6.2% in 2023 and a gradual decline to about 4% in 2024, economic growth will probably be slowed down by this inflation scenario as consumer spending contrasts in reaction to growing costs. On the other hand, a lot of Western economies anticipate that as inflationary pressures decrease, their growth rates would slow down and stabilize, with the possibility of a solid rebound bolstered by high employment rates and rising consumer confidence. Number seven, the Philippines' future direction. Planning successful interventions requires addressing the underlying causes of inflation, which is still a major concern for the Philippines. Government plans need to take into account socioeconomic policies aimed at supporting low income households, strengthening local production capacities, and create more robust food and energy supply networks. Improving food security through regional agricultural growth can lessen reliance on imports and contribute to long term price stabilization. In summary, the Philippines' experience with inflation differs from that of Western countries in certain ways. Although both countries deal with inflation as a financial obstacle, the severity of the problem and its effect on purchasing power, especially for households that are already at a disadvantage, made the country's economic policies more focused. The difference in the two regions' experiences with inflation will continue to be a crucial subject of study for economics and policymakers as the situation evolves. All right, folks, that is all for today's shows. Thank you for watching. Until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Have a good day.